Education is going to take centre stage today when MPs get their chance to debate a flagship bill which contains a wide range of measures, from establishing breakfast clubs at primary schools to forcing academies to employ qualified teachers and strengthening child protection.
We're joined now live on Breakfast by the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson. Good morning to you. We'll talk about the contents of this bill in a moment, but can we just talk about this ongoing row over grooming gangs? The Conservatives calling for a full national public inquiry into what's happened. You've told us many times how important child safety is to you, so why wouldn't you want the fullest possible inquiry to get answers?
Hello, good morning. I mean, that's precisely why we're introducing the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill today. That's what I'm here today to talk about, the measures that we are taking to keep children safe. We had a national review. The Conservatives started that process many years ago. Alexis Jay brought forward many excellent recommendations. And what happened with those recommendations and that review? Absolutely nothing. Conservative ministers, then ministers, didn't take action on those key areas. We are taking action to protect children and to keep them safe. I've had enough of lessons learned, inquiries, reviews. Let's get on and take the action that is necessary to protect children. And what the Conservatives are saying today is that they intend to block this legislation. They'll kill it stone dead. I mean, I think that is utterly shameful for these bandwagon jumpers who've been coming along in recent days saying that they care very much about children's safety and about child protection. The measures that we're setting out today are precisely that, to keep children safe, to make sure that everyone working to support children pulls together, shares information and takes action. I've had enough of talking about this. We've got to get on and do it.
OK, yes, and people hear you saying there has to be action, not more inquiries. But why can't you have action and another inquiry? Why do these two things have to be separate?
We had an inquiry. I mean, the Conservatives were the people that launched it. We backed them on it. It was the right thing to do. But the author, the person that led that report, Professor Alexis Jay, has also been clear that we just got to get on and do something about this. We have to act to keep children safe. This is everyone's responsibility. And, you know, we've had local reviews, we've had national reviews, we've had so much talk over so many years about what needs to happen. We need to believe children, we need to believe victims and survivors. They deserve justice. And alongside that, what we heard time and again from every review that's ever happened, from every newspaper article I've ever read on this topic, was that those working with children have to share information, have to work together. And the measures today, to give you concrete examples of the things that the Conservatives intend to vote against: a single unique child identifier, something called for many years, to pull together all of the information about a child's life. Multi-agency child protection team, so that in every council you've got police, children's social care, health and education working together. One of the key things that we've heard from so many of these reviews is that people didn't share information. So that police knew what was going on, that there were individuals involved in exploiting children, or schools knew what was going on, but they didn't share that and they didn't identify the perpetrators and take action, and they didn't protect children. That's got to change, and it starts today.
As you say that, I'm thinking about the case of little Sarah Sharif, who was murdered, and we've talked about her case here on the programme before. The signals weren't picked up when she wasn't attending school, and councils through this bill will now have to have a register of all the children who are not attending class. Will schools be able to afford to do that effectively? Will they have the money to actually have a proper register that counts?
It's too important that we don't take action on this. So councils will be required to have that register. But the change that we're also bringing in, and where we're going further, as we have discussed before, is that where there are serious concerns about what's going on in a child's life, including where there are child protection investigations or whether there is a child protection plan in place, parents will no longer have an automatic right to educate their children at home. They will have to seek the consent of the local council. This is another area where we are taking action to keep children safe in this crucial landmark legislation, the single biggest piece of child protection legislation in a generation. And I think it's shameful that the Conservatives today are intent on blocking that.
I mentioned money, though, because on the day that your bill goes back into Parliament, we've got another report talking about cuts in schools and big decisions that head teachers are having to take every day and will in the next year about having to cut things. And yet at the same time, we're talking about more breakfast clubs and more help with uniforms and more pay for teachers. Isn't the big issue here that schools are just going to need much more money to afford all these things?
Look, I make no bones about the fact this is a big challenge. We inherited a total mess where it came to the economy and a really difficult situation in our public services, including in our schools. But in the budget, the Chancellor protected key education priorities. We are investing more in our schools, £2.3 billion more. And we're also taking action to deliver real improvements around the cost of living for parents and for children. So rolling out breakfast clubs in our primary schools so that children get a great start to their day. And the evidence is clear about the difference it makes and the impact it has on children's learning. But it will also cut costs to families as well. And where it comes to school uniform, I want children to be smart at school, but I don't think it should cost the parents the earth. So in the legislation today, we're going to put in place limits around the number of branded items that schools will be able to insist parents have to buy. That will save parents a lot of money. I think it is a really straightforward way that we can put more money back into parents' pockets.
We've had quite a few messages from our viewers this morning because we were just talking to a head teacher and hearing from a school about uniforms, saying, isn't it time just to get rid of uniforms altogether? No branded items, or maybe a badge or a tie, but even 3 or 4 items is too many and too expensive.
I mean, alongside the branded items, we still expect schools to keep those costs down even within that. I do think uniform, however, is important. I think it is important that children are smart at school, but also it is a leveller, because I don't want to end up in a position where children are, parents are worried about making sure their children have got the best kit and the most expensive, trainers and whatever. This means that we can keep costs down to parents, but sadly at the minute, too many schools are insisting on very large numbers of items, in some cases up to 10 at a secondary level. I just think that's excessive, and we've got to cut the costs for parents and put more money back in their pockets.
How confident are you that we'll still have school uniforms in 5-10 years?
I think we will. I mean, we're a country that has really always tended to have it in modern times. I do think it does make life easier for parents if it's done properly. I think the trouble that we've had in recent years is that the costs have just escalated massively with the numbers of items that are required. But if you don't have uniform, I think you do end up risking a bit of an arms race where parents feel that they've got to buy their children the most expensive new trainers and branded items, and that's not something that we want. And I think it can, cause real discomfort and upset to children, and that's something we also want to avoid. So uniform, I think, is absolutely crucial and is here to stay.
Of course, as teachers start back after the Christmas and New Year break, a lot of them are thinking about pay and pay arrangements for next year. The fact that some trusts pay more than others is under the spotlight. What can you as a government do to try to iron out those inequalities? And of course, it has a huge impact on recruitment in some places.
So what we were able to do back in July in order to demonstrate our commitment to the teaching workforce was to deliver that 5.5% pay award that had been recommended by the independent peer review body. There's a lot more that we need to do around workload, around conditions, around flexibility. We're seeing too many brilliant experienced teachers, especially women in their 30s when they have children and find it really hard to juggle work and family life, who are leaving the profession. And we've got to stop that, because we need to keep those brilliant, talented people who worked really hard to get to where they are in their career from leaving. I want all schools to have a core set of entitlements that they offer to staff, but also a core entitlement where it comes to what our children can expect. So one area where we're setting out legislation as part of this bill is to require all schools to employ qualified teachers. I think that's what your viewers would expect. I think they would expect that the teacher in front of their child's class has trained, has qualified, and has had that ongoing induction and development process to be the best possible teacher that they can be. And I want that in all schools.
We'll have to leave it there. Bridget Phillipson, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.